Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and watched the massive space station grow larger on the main screen. Centauri Prime looked like a giant metal flower floating in the darkness of space. Its silver petals stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. Each petal housed millions of beings from across the galaxy. This was the heart of the Galactic Assembly, and Jake felt both excited and nervous about what would happen next. "Captain, we're receiving docking instructions from Station Control," said Lieutenant Ryan Brooks from his position at the communications station. Ryan was Earth's best translator and had spent years learning the complex languages of the galaxy. His job was to make sure nothing got lost in translation during the most important meeting in human history. "Thank you, Ryan," Jake replied and turned to the woman sitting in the guest chair beside his command station. Ambassador Lisa Campbell had been chosen to represent Earth because of her skill in dealing with difficult people. She had worked with world leaders for 20 years and never lost her temper, even when things got heated. Today she would need all of that patience. "Are you ready for this, Ambassador?" Jake asked quietly so the rest of the bridge crew could not hear. Lisa smiled, but Jake could see the worry in her eyes. "As ready as anyone can be when they're about to meet with 800 different alien species who think we're barely smarter than cave people." The New Horizon was not Earth's most advanced ship, but it was chosen for this mission because it looked peaceful. The vessel was only 200 meters long and had no visible weapons. Earth's leaders wanted to make a good first impression, so they sent their most diplomatic ship, instead of one of their massive warships that might scare the aliens as they docked with the station. Jake thought about the long journey that had brought them here. Humans had discovered faster-than-light travel only 50 years ago. It was a breakthrough that came from studying crashed alien technology found in the desert. The wreckage had been there for thousands of years, but human scientists finally figured out how it worked. Within a decade, Earth had built its first interstellar ships and begun exploring nearby star systems. The galaxy, it turned out, was full of life. Hundreds of species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. They had formed the Galactic Assembly to keep peace and share knowledge. When they detected Earth's first FTL signature, they sent a message welcoming humans to the galactic community. But the message came with conditions. "Attention, human vessel, this is Centauri Prime Docking Control," came a voice through the ship's speakers. The translator turned the alien words into English, but Jake could hear the dismissive tone even through the machine. "You are assigned to Docking Bay 779 in the Outer Ring. Please follow the guidance beacons and do not deviate from your assigned course." Ryan looked up from his station with a frown. "Captain, Docking Bay 779 is in the section they use for cargo ships and maintenance vessels. All the diplomatic ships dock in the inner ring." Jake felt his jaw tighten. The aliens were already showing their opinion of humanity by treating Earth's diplomatic mission like a delivery truck. "Acknowledge their instructions, Lieutenant. We'll play by their rules for now." The docking process took 2 hours longer than it should have. The station's traffic control kept delaying them, claiming they needed to make room for more important vessels. Jake watched through the viewports as sleek alien ships glided past them toward the prestigious inner docking bays. Some of the alien vessels were beautiful, with curved hulls that seemed to flow like water. Others looked like living creatures, with organic shapes that pulsed with strange lights. Earth's ship looked crude by comparison. The New Horizon was all angles and straight lines, built for function rather than beauty. Its hull was covered with antennas, sensors, and small defensive weapons that looked primitive next to the smooth energy shields that protected the alien vessels. Finally, they docked and prepared to meet the galaxy's representatives. Jake put on his best dress uniform, complete with medals from his service in Earth's space fleet. Lisa wore a simple but elegant blue dress that represented Earth's oceans. Ryan carried a bag full of translation equipment and cultural reference materials. The airlock opened with a hiss, and they stepped into a world unlike anything they had ever seen. The station's interior was vast, with ceilings that disappeared into misty heights. Beings of every shape and size moved through the corridors on business Jake could not imagine. Some walked on two legs like humans, but others slithered, floated, or moved in ways that defied description. A tall, thin alien with gray skin and large black eyes approached them. "I am Coordinator Theosos of the Zentari," it said in perfect English. "You are the human delegation, I assume." "Yes," Lisa replied with a diplomatic smile. "I am Ambassador Lisa Campbell, representing Earth and all of humanity. This is Captain Jake Morrison and Lieutenant Ryan Brooks." Theosos looked them up and down with obvious disappointment. "Follow me. The Council will see you now, though I must warn you that they have many important matters to discuss today. Your presentation has been allocated 15 minutes. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. 15 minutes to present humanity's case for joining the galaxy's most important organization. Other species had been given hours or even days to make their presentations. But he kept his mouth shut and followed the alien through corridors that seemed designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant. The council chamber was enormous, with seats arranged in a giant circle that rose up like the inside of a bowl. Hundreds of alien beings sat in those seats, representing every species in the galaxy. At the center of the circle was a small platform where the human delegation was expected to stand and make their case. Chancellor Vextar of the Zentari sat on the highest seat, looking down at the humans with barely concealed contempt. Next to him sat Delegate Zephmos of the Krillian Empire, a being that looked like a cross between a snake and a spider. These two species effectively controlled the Galactic Assembly, and their opinion would determine humanity's fate. "Humans of Earth," Chancellor Vextar began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You have requested membership in the Galactic Assembly. This is a privilege that must be earned through demonstrated technological advancement and peaceful contribution to galactic society. Tell us why your species deserves such an honor." Lisa stepped forward and began humanity's presentation. She spoke of Earth's art, music, and literature. She described human achievements in science and medicine. She explained how Earth had overcome its violent past to become a unified world dedicated to exploration and peace. The aliens listened with polite boredom. Some were clearly not paying attention at all, busy with their own conversations or electronic devices. Jake could see that humanity's accomplishments, impressive as they were, seemed primitive compared to what these ancient civilizations had achieved. When Lisa finished, Chancellor Vextar exchanged glances with Delegate Zephmos before responding. "Your species shows some promise," he said in a tone that suggested he thought the opposite. "However, you have only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. Your technology is crude by galactic standards. You still use kinetic weapons and chemical propulsion systems like barbarians. We have observed your military vessels," added Delegate Zephmos, his voice like rustling leaves. "They are primitive constructions of metal and ceramic, lacking proper energy shields or plasma weaponry. How can a species that builds such crude machines contribute to our advanced civilization?" Jake felt his temper flare. Earth's ships might look simple, but they were built to last and fight. Every human vessel was designed by people who understood that war was sometimes necessary to protect the innocent. But he held his tongue and let Lisa handle the diplomacy. "We appreciate your concerns," Lisa replied smoothly. "However, we believe that diversity of thought and approach strengthens any organization. Earth may use different technologies, but our methods are proven effective." The Chancellor waved a dismissive hand. "Perhaps in time your species will develop more sophisticated approaches to technology and warfare. For now, we are prepared to offer Earth probationary membership status. You will have 50 years to prove your worth by advancing your technology to acceptable standards. We suggest you focus on developing proper energy shields and plasma weaponry like civilized species." The chamber filled with alien laughter, a sound that made Jake's blood boil. They were treating humanity like children who needed to be taught how to build proper toys. What these arrogant beings did not understand was that Earth's weapons were not primitive at all. They were purpose-built tools designed by a species that had learned hard lessons about survival. Lisa maintained her diplomatic composure. "We are grateful for your offer and will consider it carefully. However, I hope you will keep an open mind about human capabilities. Our methods may be different, but they are not inferior. We shall see, said the Chancellor with a tone that suggested he had already made up his mind. This session is concluded. Coordinator Theosos will provide you with the details of probationary membership. As the council dispersed, Jake felt a mix of anger and determination. The galaxy's leaders had just made a serious mistake. 3 months had passed since the humiliating meeting at Centauri Prime, and Jake Morrison still felt anger burning in his chest every time he thought about it. The New Horizon was now stationed at the edge of Viridian space, officially conducting scientific surveys but actually keeping watch on galactic affairs. Earth's leaders wanted to understand how the galaxy really worked before making any major decisions about membership. The Viridian system was home to one of the most peaceful species in the galaxy. The Viridians looked like tall, slender humans, with pale blue skin and large silver eyes. They had never fought a war in their entire recorded history. Instead, they spent their time creating beautiful art, writing philosophy, and studying the mysteries of the universe. Their cities were works of art that floated in the clouds of their homeworld. Connected by bridges of light that seemed to defy gravity, Ryan Brooks was monitoring galactic communications when the first distress signal arrived. His face went pale as he read the message. Captain, we're receiving an emergency transmission from the Viridian government. They're under attack. Jake rushed to the communications station and read the message himself. The words were simple but terrifying. Unknown. Fleet has entered our system. They are firing on our orbital habitats, requesting immediate assistance from any galactic assembly forces in the area. Who's attacking them? Jake asked, though he had a terrible feeling he already knew the answer. According to the transmission, it's the Hastel Empire, Ryan replied. They were expelled from the assembly last year for aggressive expansion into neutral space. Intelligence reports suggested they were building up their fleet, but no one expected them to attack an assembly. Member world. Jake felt his stomach drop. The Hastel were one of the most violent species in the galaxy. They believed that might made right and that weaker species existed only to serve stronger ones. Their ships were massive and heavily armed, designed to crush opposition through overwhelming firepower. The peaceful Viridians had no chance against them. Send a message to Earth immediately, Jake ordered. Tell them what's happening and request instructions. Also, contact the Galactic Assembly and ask about their response. The reply from the Assembly came first. Chancellor Vextar's office sent a brief message stating that the matter was under review and that a diplomatic solution was being sought. No mention was made of sending military assistance. Jake cursed it under his breath at the typical bureaucratic response. Earth's reply came 6 hours later, transmitted through the quantum communication network that connected all human colonies. President Helen Carter appeared on the main screen, her face grave with concern. Behind her, Jake could see the flags of all Earth's nations and the insignia of the Solar Defense Fleet. Captain Morrison, the president began, we've been monitoring the situation in the Viridian system. Our long-range sensors show that the Hastel fleet consists of 12 Dreadnought-class vessels, each capable of destroying a planet. The Viridians have no military capability whatsoever. Jake nodded grimly. He had seen the intelligence reports on Hastel technology. Their ships were 3 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to sterilize entire worlds. Their energy shields could deflect most known weapons, and their plasma cannons could punch through the strongest armor in the galaxy. What are your orders, Madam President? Jake asked. For now, maintain your position and observe. We're calling an emergency session of the Global Defense Council to discuss our options. Admiral Phillips is already mobilizing the Solar Defense Fleet, but any action we take will have serious consequences for our relationship with the Galactic Assembly. The transmission ended, leaving Jake feeling frustrated and helpless. Somewhere in the Viridian system, innocent people were dying while politicians debated what to do about it. This was exactly the kind of situation that made Jake grateful he was a military officer rather than a diplomat. On Earth, the emergency session was already underway. President Carter sat at the head of a table surrounded by military leaders, intelligence officers, and diplomatic advisors. The debate was intense and heated, with strong opinions on both sides. General Sam Rodriguez, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, argued for caution. Madam President, if we intervene militarily, we'll be revealing our true capabilities to the galaxy. The Galactic Assembly thinks we're primitive. That gives us a strategic advantage we shouldn't throw away lightly. Admiral Kate Phillips, commander of the Solar Defense Fleet, disagreed strongly. With respect, General, what good is a strategic advantage if we stand by and watch genocide? The Viridians are peaceful people who've never hurt anyone. If we don't help them, who will? Secretary of State Mark Wilson tried to find a middle ground. Perhaps we could provide humanitarian aid without direct military intervention. Medical supplies, refugee assistance, that sort of thing. The Haskell aren't interested in taking prisoners, Admiral Phillips replied coldly. They're systematically destroying every orbital habitat in the system. By the time we could organize humanitarian aid, there won't be anyone left to help. The president listened to the debate for nearly an hour before calling for silence. She had been elected because of her ability to make tough decisions under pressure, and this was certainly one of those moments. The choice she made would affect humanity's relationship with the galaxy for generations to come. Admiral Phillips, she said finally, what assets do we have available for immediate deployment? The Admiral consulted her tablet before responding. The 1st Titan Battle Group is currently conducting exercises in the Proxima system. They could reach Viridian space within 12 hours. The group consists of 4 Titan-class battleships and their escort vessels. And what are our chances of success against the Haskell fleet? Admiral Phillips smiled grimly. Madam President, the Haskell have no idea what they're dealing with. Their ships are designed to fight other energy-based weapon systems. They've never faced kinetic weapons on the scale we can deploy. General Rodriguez shook his head. Admiral, you're talking about starting a war with one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. Even if we win this battle, what happens when they send reinforcements? Then we'll deal with those too, Admiral Phillips replied. General, with respect, Earth didn't build the Solar Defense Fleet to hide behind diplomatic immunity. We built it to protect innocent people from predators like the Haskell. President Carter stood and walked to the window that overlooked the sprawling metropolis of New Geneva. Earth's capital city stretched to the horizon, a testament to human achievement and cooperation. Somewhere out there, billions of people were living their lives in peace because others were willing to fight for that peace. The decision is made, she announced, turning back to face the room. Admiral Phillips, you are authorized to deploy the 1st Titan Battle Group to the Viridian system. Your mission is to stop the Haskell attack and protect civilian populations. The room erupted in surprised voices, but the president held up her hand for silence. I know this is a risk, but it's the right thing to do. If we want to be part of the galactic community, we need to show them what human values really mean. Admiral Phillips saluted crisply. Understood, Madam President. The 1st Titan Battle Group will deploy immediately. As the meeting broke up, Admiral Phillips contacted her fleet commanders through secure channels. The orders were simple but historic. Humanity was about to reveal its true military capabilities to the galaxy, and the revelation would change everything. In the Viridian system, the destruction continued. Haskell plasma cannons reduced beautiful orbital cities to glowing debris. Millions of peaceful beings died in the cold vacuum of space while their government sent increasingly desperate pleas for help that seemed to fall on deaf ears. War leader Grixinoth commanded the Haskell fleet from his flagship, the Dominator. He was a massive creature with thick armor plates covering his body and eyes that glowed red with hatred. To him, the Viridians were weak and therefore deserved to be destroyed. It was the natural order of things. War leader, reported his communications officer, we're detecting some sort of response from the Galactic Assembly. Their Harmony fleet is mobilizing, but they're at least 5 days away. Grixinoth laughed, a sound like grinding metal. 5 days? We'll be finished here in 5 hours. The Assembly's pathetic peacekeepers are no threat to us anyway. Their ships are designed for patrol duty, not real combat. He was right about the Assembly's response. The Harmony fleet consisted of lightly armed vessels meant to show the flag and discourage minor conflicts. They had never faced a serious military threat because the Assembly's member species had forgotten what real war looked like, but Earth remembered. In the darkness of space, 4 massive shapes were moving toward the Viridian system at speeds that defied galactic understanding of physics. The Titan-class battleships Leviathan, Colossus, Behemoth, and Goliath were coming to remind the galaxy that some things were worth fighting for. Admiral Phillips stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, watching the tactical display that showed her fleet's approach. In a few hours, she would have to make decisions that would echo through history. The Galactic Assembly was about to learn that Earth's primitive weapons were more dangerous than anyone had imagined. War leader Grixinoth stood on the command deck of his flagship, Dominator, and watched the destruction of another Viridian orbital habitat. The delicate structure, which had housed nearly 1 million peaceful beings, collapsed in on itself as his plasma cannons tore through its support frameworks. The sight filled him with savage satisfaction. "Excellent work, Weapons Officer Kreshmer," he growled to his subordinate. "How many of their pathetic cities remain?" "Only 3 major orbital platforms, War Leader," replied the smaller Hastel, his voice filled with eager bloodlust. "At our current rate of destruction, we will complete the cleansing within 4 hours." Grixinoth nodded approvingly. The Hastel had been planning this attack for months, ever since their expulsion from the Galactic Assembly. Those arrogant fools thought they could punish the Hastel Empire for being strong while weak. Species like the Viridians were praised for their useless philosophies and art. Today would show the galaxy, which approach to life was truly superior. "War Leader," called out the sensor operator from his station, "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures approaching from deep space. The contacts are moving at extremely high velocity." Grixinoth turned his attention to the tactical display. 4 massive objects were indeed approaching the Viridian system, but their energy signatures were unlike anything in the galactic databases. They were enormous, each one showing as large as a small moon, but they moved with purpose and incredible speed. "Identify those contacts," he ordered, though he felt no real concern. The Galactic Assembly's Harmony fleet was still days away, and no other military force in the galaxy posed a threat to his powerful dreadnoughts. "Unknown, War Leader," the sensor operator replied nervously. "The computer cannot match their signatures to any known vessel types. Their construction appears to be primarily metallic with minimal energy shielding." Grixinoth laughed harshly. "Primitive metal ships with no proper shields? Some backward species has decided to interfere with Hastel business. They will learn the folly of their actions." Meanwhile, on Centauri Prime, Chancellor Vexstar was receiving increasingly desperate reports from the Viridian system. The beautiful philosophical species that had contributed so much to galactic culture was being systematically exterminated, and the Assembly's response was proving inadequate. "Chancellor," said his aide, Coordinator Thielsos, the Harmony fleet, "reports they are still 3 days away from the Viridian system. At current rates of destruction, there will be no survivors by the time they arrive." Vexstar felt frustration and helplessness wash over him. The Galactic Assembly had been created to prevent exactly this kind of atrocity, but their peaceful philosophy left them unprepared for dealing with true evil. The Harmony fleet was designed for patrol duties and minor conflicts, not full-scale warfare against heavily armed dreadnoughts. "What about diplomatic solutions?" he asked desperately. "Have we been able to establish communication with the Hastel fleet?" "War Leader Grixinoth refuses all attempts at negotiation," Thielsos replied. "He claims the Viridians are weak and therefore deserve destruction. He says this is a demonstration of Hastel's strength for the entire galaxy to witness." Before Vexstar could respond, another aide rushed into the chamber with urgent news. "Chancellor, we're receiving a priority transmission from Captain Morrison of the human delegation. He says Earth has detected massive energy signatures approaching the Viridian system." Vexstar felt a moment of confusion. The humans were still in the outer system aboard their primitive little diplomatic vessel. What could they possibly know about the situation that the Assembly's advanced sensor networks had missed? "Put the transmission through," he ordered. Jake. Morrison's face appeared on the communication screen, his expression grim and determined. "Chancellor Vexstar, I have a message from Earth's leadership. In approximately 1 hour, you are going to witness something that will change your understanding of human capabilities forever." "Captain Morrison," Vexstar replied with barely concealed irritation, "this is hardly the time for human posturing. The Viridian species is facing extinction, and your people's primitive technology can offer no assistance." Jake's expression hardened. "With respect, Chancellor, you have no idea what human technology can accomplish. I strongly advise you to monitor the Viridian system very carefully over the next hour. You might learn something about the value of so-called primitive weapons." The transmission ended, leaving Vexstar staring at the blank screen in confusion. What could the humans possibly do to affect a battle between Hasktel dreadnoughts and defenseless civilians? Their largest warships were barely a fraction of the size of Hasktel vessels, and their kinetic weapons were laughably outdated by galactic standards. In the Viridian system, the first of Earth's Titan-class battleships was preparing to drop out of hyperspace. Admiral Kate Phillips stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, reviewing the tactical situation one final time. Her ship was 15 kilometers long and massed more than any structure ever built by human hands. Its hull was covered with railgun, batteries, missile pods, and defensive laser arrays that could track and destroy thousands of incoming projectiles simultaneously. "Admiral," reported Captain Susan Clark, her flag captain, "all ships report ready for combat operations. The Colossus, Behemoth, and Goliath are standing by for your orders." Admiral Phillips nodded grimly. Each of her Titan-class battleships was a masterpiece of human engineering, designed according to lessons learned from centuries of warfare. They were not elegant like alien vessels, but they were purpose-built for one thing: winning battles against impossible odds. "Communications, open a channel to the Viridian government," she ordered. The response came immediately, transmitted from deep underground bunkers where the surviving Viridian leadership had taken shelter. "Unknown vessel, this is Prime Minister Velther of the Viridian Republic. Please identify yourself." "Prime Minister, this is Admiral Kate Phillips of the Earth Solar Defense Fleet. We are here to provide humanitarian assistance and protect your people from the Hasktel attack." The relief in the Viridian leader's voice was obvious even through the translation system. "Admiral Phillips, we are grateful for any help you can provide, but I must warn you that the Hasktel fleet is extremely powerful. Their ships are equipped with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy." "Thank you for the warning, Prime Minister," Admiral Phillips replied calmly. "Please ensure your people remain in their shelters until we have dealt with this situation." The 4 Titan-class battleships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their massive bulk blocking out the light from the system's star. On the Hasktel flagship, alarms began sounding as sensors detected the new arrivals. "War Leader," the sensor operator called out in a voice filled with amazement. "Those ships are enormous. The largest one is 15 kilometers in length." Grixinoff studied the tactical display with growing interest. The human vessels were indeed massive, but their design was crude and primitive. They looked like flying fortresses built from metal. Plates and ceramic armor with no sign of the elegant energy shields that protected civilized warships. "Impressive size for primitive construction," he admitted. "But size means nothing without proper technology. Open a communication channel." "To these fools?" The channel opened, and Grixinoff found himself looking at a human female wearing a military uniform. She appeared calm and professional, showing no sign of fear despite facing the most powerful battle fleet in Hasktel history. "I am War Leader Grixinoff of the Hasktel Empire," he announced in his most intimidating voice. "You are interfering with official Hasktel military operations. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Phillips studied the alien warlord for a moment before responding. "War Leader Grixinoff, I am Admiral Kate Phillips of the Earth Solar Defense Fleet. You are engaged in the systematic murder of civilians. You have 30 seconds to cease fire and withdraw from this system. Grixinoth could not believe what he was hearing. This primitive human was actually threatening him. Despite being outnumbered 3-1 by ships that were technologically superior in every way, the arrogance was beyond comprehension. "You dare threaten the Hastel Empire?" he roared. "Your crude metal ships are no match for our advanced plasma weaponry and antimatter torpedoes. I will demonstrate why energy shields are superior to primitive armor plating." "War leader," Admiral Phillips replied with deadly calm, "you are about to learn why Earth prefers kinetic weapons over energy shields. I suggest you reconsider your position." The communication channel closed, leaving Grixinoth staring at the blank screen in rage. No one had ever spoken to him with such disrespect and lived to tell about it. He would crush these insolent humans and use their wreckage to complete the destruction of the Viridian system. "All ships, prepare for combat," he ordered. "Target the largest human vessel and fire on my command. We will show these primitives what real weapons can accomplish." The Hastel fleet began to turn toward the human ships, their plasma cannons and antimatter torpedo tubes charging with deadly energy. War leader Grixinoth was about to learn that humanity's definition of primitive was very different from the galaxy's understanding of the term. Admiral Phillips watched the enemy fleets movements on her tactical display and felt a cold satisfaction. War leader Grixinoth raised his massive armored fist and brought it down on his command console with brutal force. "All ships, commence firing," he roared. "Show these primitive humans the power of the Hastel Empire." 12 Hastel dreadnoughts opened fire simultaneously, unleashing a devastating barrage that had destroyed entire worlds. Plasma bolts as bright as small suns streaked across space toward the human fleet, followed by antimatter torpedoes that could crack planetary crusts. The combined firepower was enough to vaporize any known warship in the galaxy. Admiral Phillips watched the incoming weapons on her tactical display and felt a moment of professional admiration for the enemy's coordination. The Hastel knew how to fight. She had to give them that. Unfortunately for them, they had never faced an enemy that fought like humans. "Point defense systems, engage," she ordered calmly. The space around the 4 Titan-class battleships suddenly erupted in a web of defensive fire unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Thousands of close-in weapon systems activated simultaneously, creating overlapping fields of laser fire and kinetic projectiles. Each human ship carried more defensive weapons than most species had in their entire fleets. The Hastel plasma bolts, designed to overwhelm single-point energy shields, found themselves facing a completely different type of defense. Instead of trying to absorb or deflect the incoming energy, the human point defense system simply destroyed the plasma containment fields, causing the weapons to dissipate harmlessly into space. The antimatter torpedoes fared even worse. Human defensive AI systems, trained through countless combat simulations, tracked each incoming missile and destroyed them with precise laser fire before they could reach their targets. In less than 30 seconds, the most devastating attack in Hastel history had been completely neutralized on the bridge of the Dominator. War leader Grixinoth stared at his tactical display in shocked disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered. "No ship can defend against that level of firepower." "War leader," his weapons officer reported nervously, "all our shots were intercepted. The human ships appear to be undamaged." Grixinoth felt a cold fear creeping into his heart. The humans had just done something that violated everything he understood about space combat. How could primitive kinetic weapons destroy advanced plasma containment fields? How could any point defense system track and eliminate dozens of antimatter torpedoes simultaneously? Admiral Phillips allowed herself a small smile as her tactical officer reported the successful defense. Earth's military doctrine was based on a simple principle that the galaxy had forgotten. The best defense was not to avoid getting hit, but to make sure nothing could hit you in the first place. "All ships," she announced over the fleet communication system, "the enemy has revealed their capabilities. Now it's our turn. All vessels, fire for effect." The Leviathan's main battery spoke first. 12 electromagnetic railguns, each the size of a city building, accelerated tungsten projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed. The projectiles were simple metal rods, no more sophisticated than a caveman's spear, but they carried kinetic energy that dwarfed any weapon the galaxy had ever conceived. The first Haskel dreadnought, the Conqueror, simply ceased to exist. The tungsten rod punched through its energy shields as if they were not there, passed through 15 meters of advanced armor plating like it was paper, and continued through the ship's entire length before exiting out the stern. The massive warship broke apart in a silent explosion that lit up the surrounding space. "Impossible," Grixonoth gasped, watching his most powerful subordinate's ship disintegrate. "Their weapons passed through our shields. How is that possible?" His science officer, Victor, was frantically checking his instruments. "War leader, the human weapons appear to be purely kinetic projectiles. Our energy shields are designed to deflect plasma and energy weapons. They cannot stop solid matter moving at relativistic speeds." Before Grixonoth could respond, the other human ships opened fire. The Colossus, Behemoth, and Goliath each carried their own massive railgun batteries, and their combined firepower was beyond anything the Hastel had imagined possible. More tungsten rods streaked across space at impossible velocities, each one targeted with precision that spoke of advanced targeting systems and countless hours of training. The destroyer, commanded by sub-leader Krextos, tried to evade the incoming projectiles, but kinetic weapons at relativistic speeds gave no time for evasive maneuvers. 3 tungsten rods struck the ship simultaneously, tearing through its hull and causing catastrophic structural failure. The proud Hastel dreadnought tumbled through space as a broken wreck. The Annihilator suffered a similar fate, struck by 2 projectiles that penetrated its reactor core. The resulting explosion was visible from the surface of the Viridian homeworld, a brief new star that marked the death of another Hastel warship and its crew of 10,000 warriors on Centauri Prime. Chancellor Vextar watched the battle through long-range sensors with growing amazement. "How are the humans accomplishing this?" he asked his science advisor. "Their weapons appear to be simple kinetic projectiles." "That is precisely why they are so effective, Chancellor," replied Dr. Zefkal, the Assembly's leading expert on military technology. "For the past 1,000 years, galactic warfare has focused on energy shields and plasma weapons. No one has considered the possibility of returning to kinetic projectiles at these velocities. But surely kinetic weapons are primitive compared to our advanced energy systems." Dr. Zefkal shook his head slowly. "Chancellor, kinetic energy follows the laws of physics that cannot be circumvented. A solid projectile moving at near light speed carries more destructive force than any plasma bolt or antimatter torpedo. The humans have simply applied this principle on a scale that our energy-based defensive systems cannot handle." In the Viridian system, the battle was rapidly turning into a massacre. War leader Grixonoth watched in horror as ship after ship in his fleet was destroyed by weapons that his science officer claimed were primitive. The Devastator, Obliterator, and Executioner all fell to human railgun fire within minutes of each other. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," he ordered desperately. "Use your speed and agility to avoid their projectiles." But the human targeting systems were too accurate and the projectiles too fast. The Terminator attempted a high-speed turn to port but was struck by 4 tungsten rods that shattered its superstructure. The Subjugator tried to use a nearby asteroid field for cover, only to be picked off by precise fire from the Behemoth's secondary batteries. Commander Sarah Mitchell, captain of the Colossus, watched the enemy fleet's futile attempts at evasion with professional interest. "Their ships are fast and maneuverable," she reported to Admiral Phillips, "but they're designed for fighting other energy weapon platforms. They have no experience dealing with kinetic threats at these velocities." "Understood, Commander, Admiral," Phillips replied. "Continue firing. We need to end this quickly before they can adapt their tactics." The Ravager made a desperate attempt to close distance with the human fleet, hoping to engage at point-blank range where their plasma cannons might be more effective. Captain Lisa Parker aboard the Goliath tracked the approaching vessel with her ships targeting computers and fired a single railgun salvo. 6 tungsten projectiles struck the Haskell dreadnought simultaneously, breaking its back and sending both halves spinning away into space. War leader Grixinoth realized that conventional tactics were useless against these impossible human weapons. In desperation, he decided to attempt something that violated every principle of honorable combat, a ramming attack against the human flagship. "All remaining ships follow the Dominator," he announced over the fleet communication system. "We will ram their largest vessel and die with honor rather than flee in shame." The surviving Haskell ships, the Dominator and the Punisher, turned toward the Leviathan and accelerated to maximum speed. If they could not defeat the humans with weapons, they would destroy them through sheer mass and velocity. Admiral Phillips watched the enemy ship's suicidal charge with calm professionalism. "Commander Clark," she said to her flag captain, "plot firing solutions for both remaining vessels. Let's end this." The Leviathan's main battery fired one final time. 12 tungsten projectiles crossed the distance to the Punisher in less than a second, striking the ship's forward section and completely destroying its command structure. The dreadnought continued forward on momentum alone, but it was already a dead hulk. War leader Grixinoth's flagship, the mighty Dominator, was now alone against 4 human battleships. As railgun fire from all 4 Titan-class vessels converged on his position, Grixinoth had one final moment to understand the magnitude of his mistake. The humans had not built primitive weapons at all. They had built the most devastatingly effective weapons the galaxy had ever seen. The Dominator disappeared in a brief flash of light as dozens of tungsten projectiles tore through its hull. War leader Grixinoth and his dreams of Haskell supremacy died together in the cold vacuum of space. The battle was over. 12 Haskell dreadnoughts, the pride of their empire and terror of the galaxy, had been destroyed in less than 20 minutes by 4 human ships. The silence in the Viridian system was broken only by the gentle hum of Admiral Phillips' ships as they moved through the debris field that had once been the mighty Haskell fleet. Twisted metal fragments drifted past the viewports of the Leviathan. All that remained of 12 dreadnoughts that had terrorized the galaxy for decades. "Admiral," reported Captain Clark from her position at the tactical station, "all enemy vessels have been destroyed. We're detecting no hostile contacts in the system." Admiral Phillips nodded and activated the communication system. "This is Admiral Phillips to all Viridian government facilities. The threat has been eliminated. You may begin evacuating your people from the shelters." The response came immediately from Prime Minister Velther, his voice filled with emotion that the translation system could barely convey. "Admiral Phillips, on behalf of all Viridian people, we thank you for saving our civilization. We will never forget what Earth has done for us today." "It was our honor, Prime Minister," Admiral Phillips replied. "Earth believes that peaceful species should be protected from those who would do them harm." Throughout the galaxy, the news of the battle spread like wildfire through the communication networks. Species that had never heard of humanity suddenly found themselves asking urgent questions about these newcomers who had accomplished the impossible. The Haskell Empire had been considered one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, and they had been destroyed in less than half an hour by ships that looked primitive on Centauri Prime. Chancellor Vextar sat in his private office staring at the battle recordings that his long-range sensors had captured. He had watched the entire engagement 3 times, and he still could not fully comprehend what he had witnessed. The humans had not just won a military victory. They had demonstrated a completely different philosophy of warfare that made galactic military doctrine obsolete. "Chancellor," said his aide Theosos as he entered the office, "the Emergency Council is requesting your presence. Representatives from 47 species are demanding an immediate session to discuss the human situation." Vextar stood slowly, feeling the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. The galaxy had just changed in ways that no one had anticipated, and the Galactic Assembly would have to adapt or become irrelevant. The Emergency Council chamber was filled with voices speaking in dozens of languages as representatives tried to make sense of recent events. Some species were calling for immediate military action against Earth, fearing that humanity represented a new threat to galactic peace. Others argued that Earth should be embraced as a powerful ally who had proven their commitment to protecting. The innocent, delegate Zephmos of the Krillian Empire was among the most vocal critics. The humans have demonstrated that they possess weapons capable of destroying any fleet in the galaxy, he declared to the assembled delegates. How can we trust a species that builds such devastating instruments of war? They use those weapons to save the Viridians, replied Ambassador Kextul of the Andromedan Collective. Perhaps we should be grateful that such power exists in the hands of those who use it responsibly. The debate raged for hours as species representatives tried to understand the implications of Earth's military capabilities. Some argued that humanity's kinetic weapons violated the principles of civilized warfare. Others pointed out that those same principles had proven useless against the Hastel threat. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison received new orders from Earth. President Carter had decided that the time for diplomatic caution was over. Earth's true capabilities were now known to the galaxy, and there was no point in pretending to be weak any longer. "Captain Morrison," came the President's voice over the secure communication channel, "you are authorized to request an immediate audience with the Galactic Assembly Council. Earth has a proposition to make." Jake felt a surge of satisfaction as he prepared to contact Chancellor Vextar. The arrogant aliens who had dismissed humanity as primitive were about to learn that Earth was no longer asking for permission to join their club. They were offering to lead it. The formal session of the Galactic Assembly was unlike any in the organization's 3,000-year history. Instead of humans standing on the small platform in the center of the chamber, Chancellor Vextar himself met with the human delegation in the Assembly's most prestigious conference room. The seating arrangement had changed dramatically as well. Ambassador Lisa Campbell sat at the head of the table while galactic leaders arranged themselves around her. "Ambassador Campbell," Chancellor Vextar began nervously, "the Assembly wishes to express its gratitude for Earth's intervention in the Viridian crisis. Your actions saved an entire civilization." "Thank you, Chancellor," Lisa replied with diplomatic grace. "Earth was honored to assist our Viridian friends in their time of need. The Assembly has reviewed your earlier application for membership," continued the Chancellor, "and we are prepared to offer Earth full membership status with immediate effect." Lisa exchanged glances with Captain Morrison before responding. "That is very generous, Chancellor, but Earth has a different proposal to make." The room fell silent as alien delegates leaned forward to hear what the human representative would say next. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, and everyone knew it. "Earth proposes the formation of a new galactic defense force," Lisa announced. "A military organization dedicated to protecting peaceful species from aggressive empires like the Hastel. We offer to provide the core leadership and advanced weapons technology for this force." Delegate Zephmos spoke up immediately. "The Assembly has maintained peace for 3 millennia without the need for a large military force. Why should we change our approach now?" "Because your approach failed," Lisa replied bluntly. "The Viridians would be extinct right now if Earth had not intervened." The Harmony fleet was 5 days away from a crisis that lasted less than an hour. The truth of her words hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. For 3,000 years, they had believed that their advanced civilization had evolved beyond the need for military strength. The Hastel attack had proven that belief to be a dangerous illusion. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, Earth's chief military scientist, stood to address the Assembly. "The galaxy has focused on energy-based weapons and defensive systems for so long that you forgot the fundamental laws of physics. Kinetic energy cannot be deflected by energy shields. A tungsten rod moving at near-light speed carries more destructive force than any plasma weapon ever conceived." But surely such weapons are barbaric compared to our refined energy systems," protested Ambassador Neltis of the Pacifican Union. "There is nothing barbaric about effectiveness," Dr. Warren replied calmly. "Earth builds weapons to win wars and protect innocent lives. Every human ship is designed with the assumption that someday it might be all that stands between civilians and extinction. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. Species after species began to voice support for Earth's proposal. The Viridian representative, Prime Minister Velthor, spoke passionately about humanity's willingness to risk their lives for strangers. Other species that had faced hostile aggression in the past added their voices to the growing chorus of support. Finally, Chancellor Vextar called for a formal vote. The result was overwhelming. 412 species voted in favor of the Galactic Defense Force, with only 37 abstentions and 8 votes against. "The measure passes," declared the Chancellor. "Admiral Phillips, would Earth be willing to serve as the Supreme Commander of the new Galactic Defense Force?" Admiral Phillips, who had been monitoring the proceedings from the Leviathan, appeared on the main communication screen. "The Solar Defense Fleet accepts this responsibility with honor," she replied. "We pledge to defend all peaceful species against those who would do them harm." 6 months later, Admiral Phillips stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, the newly constructed headquarters of the Galactic Defense Force. Through the massive viewports, she could see human and alien ships working together to build the galaxy's first true military fleet. Earth's shipyards were operating at full capacity, producing vessels that combined human weapons technology with alien defensive systems. Captain Morrison joined her at the viewport, watching as a newly completed cruiser began its maiden voyage. The ship's design showed the influence of both human and alien engineering, sleek and elegant but bristling with the railgun batteries that had proven so effective against the Haskel. "The galaxy has certainly changed," Jake observed. 6 months ago, they thought we were primitives. Now they're begging us to teach them how to build proper weapons. Admiral Phillips smiled. "They're learning that there's a difference between being civilized and being defenseless. The galaxy spent so long congratulating itself on being peaceful that it forgot how to deal with those who aren't." The communication system activated, bringing news from across the galaxy. Reports came in of former Hastel colonies surrendering to Galactic Defense Force patrols. Pirate groups that had terrorized shipping lanes for decades were laying down their weapons rather than face human kinetic cannons. Species that had been too weak to defend themselves were finally safe from predators. "Admiral," came the voice of President Carter over the secure channel,